Yeah, well look, so all I'm hearing is that we should start our own boy band.
Yes, I'm the mysterious one.
That's yeah. Okay, do you play bass as well?
I don't know enough. I don't actually know enough stuff about boy bands. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Do boy bands even play bass? I think they just...
That's what confused me. I thought it was...
I guess I don't know anything about boy bands. It was me all along. All right, I want to talk about 5.13. We have actually a lot of changes. They're kind of subtle in the ways that they are going to affect the game. We have some jungle item changes. We have some big refactor to the AP items. We have some pretty big changes to Kalista, and then also some nerfs that you do not like to Righteous Glory. So I guess let's spin the wheel. Which one do we want to start on?
Let's go with, I want to go with Runeglaive really quickly.
Okay.
Because we're buffing it, but it still has problems in and of what the item is supposed to accomplish. One, it builds out of Sheen, which a lot of AP mages in the jungle do not want to buy, and it's not a great item for them. Secondly, they're AP mage junglers in the first place, which are just not good junglers by the definition of a jungler. Like, if you're like, I want to take a tank, and it's like, well, this guy's not tanky, then he's a bad tank. So most AP junglers are bad junglers, save for Nidalee and Evelynn, which were good before Runeglaive, just because their kit is good in the first place to be a jungler. So that's the problem with Runeglaive right now, and now we're seeing it go into lanes, because it just has so much wave clear and these other properties, and then we're gonna buff it, and it's just gonna be better on these laners.
I think this item is at least honest in that it's like, if you're going to be an AP scaling champion who clears the jungle, auto attacks probably have to be a component of your play pattern. And there's some exceptional cases like Fiddlesticks, but in order to be able to output the sustained damage for long periods of time, you need to have auto attacks. I also like that it relieves mana constraints so that you can function outside of the jungle without having to make the like horrible trade-off of do my core moment-to-moment farming activity or participate in the broader game. I agree with you though that like it's a challenging item from a design standpoint. Sheen has a lot of affinities for the laning pattern, but you know, we don't have that many play pattern based items to use, right? And so I think Sheen jumped out as a natural choice. It's also is demonstrably powerful on a lot of laners at the moment, and so that's something that will have to be tackled. Yeah. I really do like how Jagdo is trying to get it into a good position where we can actually understand who will make use of this item in the jungle, and then we can start dealing with its use in lane, whether it has the exact right profile for a jungler. But again, part of this is a move away from the notion that if you just throw AP on an item in the jungle, that it makes it a hospitable place for AP mages. And it breaks that down and tries to look at the champions that we can expect you to have some probability of success on and get you moving toward thinking about those as jungle options rather than just, brand jungle or something that probably sets you up for failure given the present state of the metagame.
A follow-up question though, since we're seeing it so much in the lane, are we okay with seeing Smite on laners?
I'm okay with it, I think. But the question is like, why are they doing it and what are the consequences of that?
Yeah, I think it does come down a lot to what are they really doing with the Smite, right? Because I think Shyvana is a character that has had a long history of shoving up lanes and then actually counter jungling, right? And I think if you took Smite and you actively engaged in hanging out in the jungle and doing stuff and taking Scuttle Crab, that'd be cool, right? Where when we actually saw people doing the Cinderhulk Smite top, that was just a side benefit. It's like, oh, I can get Scuttle Crab control, but I've already decided when I load into game that I'm gonna get Challenging Smite just because it's broken and I'm gonna beat the hell out of you, right? If we saw, I think, more patterns that encourage you to use it strategically, I would be excited with Smite on anyone in any lane, right? Because it signals to you they're doing something and not something else. There's a trade-off, right?
And I actually want to jump over to Devourer now because of that. Because Devourer is an item that is specifically for junglers. You're going to see it on junglers because of the mechanics that are on it. 1 stack for killing a camp, 2 for Scuttle, 5 for an epic monster, dragon or baron. I think that's
real quick, there kills and assists.
I know.
So that when you donate buffs, you don't actually have to get
You just have to tab it once.
Well, because it's like, I would play a Devour Jungler on live, and I'm like, don't you dare let's hit this dragon.
Yeah.
This is my dragon.
Right, and so Devourer, like, it's very nice to work in that space because you don't have to think about it being used in a whole lot of context. It's easier to balance and work on as a result. It does raise the prospect of maybe double jungle or things like that. It sounds fanciful at the moment, but who knows?
Moving on from those items, we can move into some other items. We have AP items that are completely refactored. This change actually looks super big. I was writing out the patch notes, and it is much larger than the other changes in the patch.
Oh, yeah.
There's far more item changes
In terms
than
of volume, it's huge.
right. Yeah.
It looks intimidating at first, but then eventually when I read it all and I just digested it, it's a lot of items are just 3,000 gold, they're 100 or 80 AP, and you're paying the same amount of gold for different utility on different items. So do you want the slow? You go with Rylai's. Do you want to have the Luden's proc? You go with Luden's, with the wave clear. So I love that you have all these different options for the same price and almost the same effectiveness, just you select utility. And that's cool to me because when I was thinking about mages and theory crafting all of this, I really wanted 7 item slots. And then I had to think about who's on the enemy team in this scenario and what items do I really need over others. So you're kind of like, I can't have the Ludens this game.
Yeah.
I need the Rylai's. And I think that's cool and that gives people a lot of decisions when it was getting a little stale where it was Ludens is a go-to for everybody, not a niche item. You always want it. You always want a death cap. You always want a void staff. And this is going to diversify that.
So the item changes, it's fundamentally like as we start moving toward thinking about the next preseason, right? Choice in items is a big part of what the systems team is trying to do. And I think this refactor of AP items addresses it on 2 levels. The first is, as the efficiency of items becomes more well understood, the game feels a little bit solved, right? You buy Zhonya's almost every game. Simply by rebalancing the items, right, you upset that understanding and players will have to go through the process of optimizing.
Yeah.
There's a deeper hope though, which is that by rendering the items similar in a lot of ways that we find are just not as rich decision points, right? Like, hey, which one increases
more
my
AP,
DPS by the most amount, right? Or which one can I buy at the right, has the best lane timings? The choice is made in the long run, like more meaningful to players. And so maybe it's an unsolvable problem of which is always better on this champion, Rylai's or Deathcap. It depends upon the context, how your game has gone, what the composition of the enemy team and your team is. And if we get to that, right, it's a really great place for items to be.
Yeah. The last item I have on our itinerary of all the items we're talking about today is Righteous Glory. You have been on record as saying that this is your favorite item, and you told me not to nerf it, and I'm sorry that it is being nerfed this patch.
You're not sorry enough because it is 2 nerfs. You're nerfing the HP and you're reverting what we gave to it to make it a better item, and we're also increasing the cooldown on it at the same time. And I felt like we were going towards a place where we wanted Hard Engage to be a strategy with Talisman of Ascension buffs, with Righteous Glory buffs consistently, and now we're saying, no, you can't do that. And Poke is coming up at the same time that we're nerfing this. We're seeing the AP Ezreal mid, we're seeing the Varus mid, and now when people who buy Righteous Glory aren't going to have as many windows of opportunity to get onto these frustrating Poke champions. And I don't know if, like that, to me, that feels really unfair, because that was my option against them.
That was one of your options. And there are other changes. You're going to have to look elsewhere, right? Like now you may need a Rylai's on your team if you don't have any other tools to engage. It's hard because they can buy a Rylai's too, right? But Hard Engage leaned very heavily on Righteous Glory. At the same time, it's an item with a very general sort of profile. Health is good against anything.
Mana, Catalyst passive as well, right?
Catalyst
Very good for laning.
It's not like a big cost to build it. And so the worry was that it was choking the life out of a lot of other strategies. Could you split push and expect your team not to fight in a world where Righteous Glory is just a good core item on a number of champions?
Yeah.
Now I think you'll have to put a lot more thought into your pregame, your champion select, right? Your itemization choices. Is it worth making that sacrifice to get a Righteous Glory because our team really needs it because they have that pokey mid, right?
I actually, I see this a little differently in that I feel like there are characters like Jarvan, Gnar, Zac that never needed Righteous Glory to get the job done, right? And I actually, as counterintuitive as it sounds that a less prevalent Righteous Glory makes these characters better, I actually think it does, right? I think you saw a lot of characters that were kind of towing the line of being like I guess I would lead Braum and Maokai as characters who I feel they're much better kind of in the middle of a fight, they're much better peeling, but these guys could easily build this item and then be like, cool, now I can flexibly say we're engaging, now I can flexibly say we're doing something else, right? You're gonna see more commitment out of people to say like, I am picking this character to hard engage. There's more intent. There's more statements saying that's what my strategy is, and I dare you to play against it, rather than just saying like, I don't know, what is he gonna do? So the last thing I want to get to while we have you here is Kalista. If we just talk about pro play alone, she's the most hotly contested, like right ahead of or behind Sivir.
Most banned AD carry.
Permabanned is
Most banned.
contested is code for permaban.
Yeah,
right?
contested is code for permaban. And then if you see in almost all of league brackets, it even feels like even in the ones where she's not winning all the time, she can feel super frustrated. She's very notorious of a champion, and we have made what many feel like is a very drastic change, right? So why this instead of just some damage off here or there, right?
Yeah, so it is kind of a weird change, right? The AD ratio on basic attacks is
because no one has that,
always
right? This is
1. Sometimes we go a little higher, but we often don't describe it as having a different AD ratio, right? Big things you were looking at here is like, Kalista's early lane is very strong, right? And when played properly, and I like that. I think we've actually been very hard on a lot of the sort of more bully lanes recently, and it's some champions will have stronger early games. What this change is designed to allow you to do is, if you stayed even with Kalista, have a bit of a respite during the second half of the laning phase, that like post BF sword period. She loses a lot of like marginal power there. And so I'm hopeful that you'll have this window to counterpunch to her punch.
I mean, especially with the double lifesteal builds that have kind of emerged, she kind of takes care of herself.
Yeah, she's reasonably self-sufficient, and hopefully that sort of empowers the support to be doing other things, and Kalista can call forcibly upon them if it warrants it, right? But the idea is to relieve her partner of some of the burdens of having to tend to that champion like you might a Kog'Maw or Jinx.
I have a question for you. If you could bind with any champion, who would you bind with?
Skarner.
Yeah, that's actually awesome.
That is cool.
We were testing what was it, top lane Kalista, and they would bind with jungle Skarner and just toss it.
I gotta say, I am so frustrated with our community because there are a lot of really powerful things you can do with Kalista, right?
And they're like not even scratching
binding
the
with
surface?
Skarner is nasty, right? Go out and do it, right? Force us to nerf it. Force us to deal with it, right? Kalista with teleport is so cool, right? You can R your ally and teleport and take them with you.
What? So what I'm hearing from this is I'm going to play teleport smite Runeglaive top lane Kalista.
Duo?
Yes.
And I'm going to do a
Duo?
Let's do it. Awesome. Cool.